So we are on page number 12. Let's start. Ray knows that his visitors are in need. He accepts an old watch in exchange for a good sum of money. The message of peace and goodwill spreads everywhere as the old clocks chime. Merry Christmas. So the clocks ticked on. Ray calmly wrote another message. Have you come to pick up a clock or a watch? Then he pointed to the lone board filled with hanging clocks and pocket watches. He was not a pawnbroker, but at the same time could not say no to the needy people who placed their old watches or clocks before him for anything they could get. He loaned more than he should. They would be there when the owners wanted them back at the same price he had paid with no interest. Ray knew at heart that the visitors were in dire need of money. They need money urgently. Ray quietly asked, writing a message, if they had come to take a clock or watch. Understanding their need, Ray also pointed out to the lone board filled with hanging clocks and pocket watches to tell them that he gave money as loan in exchange for people's old watches and clocks. He was not a man who gave money to people to take some security in return or earn interest. Rather, Ray did all that to help needy people. It was because of his helping and kind nature. So he was not a pawnbroker who the people who used to take something and they give money in lieu of that thing, and they also charge interest. So then the older man seemed to feel a little easier, took out his hand from his pocket and quickly looked at the watch on his wrist. How much will you give me for this? The man wrote. Ray noticed a little shame in the grey eyes looking at him. The watch was nothing special and yet had great powers. It was something to exchange, a way out of a bad situation, knowing that great need had brought the man to his shop. In the first place, Ray asked, how much do you need for it? The reply came back on the notepad, whatever it's worth. This made the older man feel easy. He looked at his watch on his wrist and asked Ray what price he could offer him for that. And Ray even felt that the man was a little ashamed. The watch was not of great worth, but it was special because with this, Ray could turn around a bad situation and come out of it safely. Understanding that man's need and helplessness, because of which he was into such a bad act, Ray asked him what was his need. The man replied to Ray, writing on the pad that he should pay whatever was the worth of the watch. So the watch was special. Why it was special? Because earlier the men came to rob Ray, but when Ray pointed out at the board that he could help them in lieu of the watch, he could give them money in lieu of that watch. So the situation was the bad situation turned around, and the man who came to rob Ray also felt ashamed. That's why the watch had got some special power. So Ray reached into his cash box, pulled out a $50 note and passed it into the man's hand. As they shook hands, Ray looked into the man's eyes. They seemed to say, Thank you. They both knew the watch wasn't worth that much. Before turning to leave, the man wrote, I will be back to pick it up as soon as I can. Merry Christmas. So Ray went to his cash box and took out a $50 note. He handed it to the man. It made him happy. The man expressed gratitude, thankfulness. Both of them knew that the watch was not of that high price. Before leaving, the man said that he would come back to take his watch as soon as possible, and even wished Merry Christmas to Ray. So now you can think of that the situation was totally turned around. Earlier that was a situation of robbing, but where the two men came to rob Ray, but now it was totally changed. The little story ended on the half hour with the clock striking all together. The timepieces, which had been looking on silently all the while, rang out the time with such feeling that even Ray thought he could hear them. Their sweet musical message was filled with hope. The timeless message of peace on earth, goodwill towards all, was felt by the three men who stood in the old clock shop. So the small story ended on the half hour with the clocks. They all strike that particular time together, witnessing the whole incident. Their musical striking bells produced a music which spread a message of hope and peace. The music was so sweet and impactful that it seemed as if even deaf ears of Ray were also able to feel it. The sweet and hope filled message of goodwill towards others and peace on earth was felt by everyone. The message of peace and goodwill spreads everywhere as the old clocks chime Merry Christmas. So this is a wonderful story about peace and helpfulness, because Ray, though he was was a deaf person as well as an old person, but he, with his wisdom, the story concluded peacefully, giving a sweet and simple message of peace on earth and goodwill towards all. So we should also adapt this attitude towards our fellow human beings.